Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers and to our full review of the new On Cloudsurfer Max. This is the successor to the old Cloudeclipse. It is designed to be a long distance running shoe built with the purpose of helping runners go longer, more comfortably, delivering max cushion for long effortless runs is what On say. We have taken it out and here's how we got on. And when it comes to stack, there's a 36mm on the heel, there's 30mm on the forefoot for a 6mm drop. That's a bigger wedge than you get on the Cloudsurfer 2. It weighs in at 10.4 ounces or 295 grams in my UK men's 8.5, that's a US 9. At launch, it's going to be priced at £170 in the UK or $180 in the US. Moving on to a quick shoe whip round then, and On says the Cloudsurfer Max builds on the legacy of the Cloudeclipse as a long distance running shoe that aims to offer next level cushioning and comfort. They say it's the biggest stacked shoe in On's current lineup, with a midsole that features a double layer of On's CloudTech phase elements. Those are designed to collapse like dominoes to create a smooth roll through. There's also a softer Helium Superfoam bottom unit that shoots for an even more effortless sensation. The speed board that we saw in the Eclipse is gone, again to kind of ramp up that softness. Up top you've got new engineered mesh uppers. It's quite thick and close. You've got a flat neck collar with medium padded heel collars inside. It's got a knitted tongue that's quite flat and wrapping with a substantial gusseting. The lacing setup's been reworked with new kind of eye-stay constructions. Got this band that runs down them, which is interesting. Then when you flip them over, you've got quite a classic On outsole setup with a good generous covering of rubber that's quite thick. It covers all the key impact areas. You've also got that sort of often seen big channel down the middle of the shoe.
When it comes to the fit of the On Cloudsurfer Max, I have my usual size here, which is a UK 9. That's a US 9.5 with On, which means it will come up a little bit smaller than brands like Asics or Saucony or Nike or Brooks who convert a UK 9 to a US 10, but I had no problems with the fit. I think it's pretty roomy around the toes in a comfortable way without being too roomy, even as someone who has quite a narrow foot. Got a decent hold around the midfoot and a comfortable hold at the back here with a little bit of padding, but nothing that I found too irritating or overbearing on the run. So yeah, all around the fit was very good for me, my normal size. It's a nice breathable upper too. I've been running in the heat in this shoe and I would stick to your normal running shoe size.
I think this has got a nice feel on the foot. It's quite a snug fit. I found it quite close, just about enough room into the toe box. The one thing I will say, over shorter distances, like 10k, was absolutely fine. The fit felt really nice. It felt sort of hugging and snug and supportive. My only problem is you've got this like little stitched in detail here. That hit my toe knuckle immediately when I put them on. I didn't feel it on the run, but it is a bit of a worry if that's sort of tight on you across the foot. I do feel like these big stitches might be an issue. It hasn't been yet, so I'm going to keep an eye on that in the review. Otherwise, good hold in the heels. I had good lockdown across the midfoot, just about enough room in the toe box. Maybe I'd want a little bit more space if I'm going to go long in the shoe, which I'd probably consider going half a size up to avoid some of those issues that I just described. So in testing, I have clocked around 40 kilometers in the On Cloudsurfer Max. I've done a real mixed bag of paces, but a lot of that has been at a kind of cruising pace. The maximum time I spent in the shoe was up to 90 minutes on feet. In terms of terrain, I have taken them on the roads mainly, some light off-road as well, river paths, park paths, that kind of thing. Now the first thing I'm going to say is that I think On has their description slightly kooky on this shoe. It's sort of being pushed as a big cushion soft max stack shoe, softer than the Cloudsurfer 2, but if you're thinking of buying them for max cushion super soft plushness, I don't think that's what you're going to get here. On shoes tend to come up firmer, and if you're comparing these to other max cushion shoes, I think you're going to find that these also follow that line. I would describe these as soft but not spongy, not a million miles away actually from the ride of the Cloudeclipse that it replaces. Now the midsole I think takes the edge off the road with some top softness, but the foam comes back quite quickly for a smooth rockered ride rather than a really sort of sinky soft or particularly bouncy energetic feel. It's certainly not as cushy as shoes like the Brooks Ghost Max 3 or the Glycerin Max or even the On Cloud Monster Hyper, the Hoka Skyward X. You know, there's loads of them out there that offer more cushion. You've maybe even got more cushion from the New Balance 1080 V14 than you're going to get here. Though for me, what you get here actually works in a different way, just for a different purpose than the marketing might suggest. I like the fact the cushion isn't overdone. I enjoyed the roll through and the kind of easy clip along. The transitions are really smooth from this Cloudtech phase setup that you've got, and the rockering. The shoes are almost sort of wonderfully quiet as well when you're running, and I could run in these shoes a lot at my kind of long run, go forever pace. Except for one thing, and that is the toe knuckle, where there's this kind of lace stitching eyelet here that rubs. Everything is good underfoot other than that, and I nearly packed these for the Berlin Wall 100 miler, but that glitch kind of put me off wanting to risk them for that big mileage or really long hours on feet. Now I can pick up the pace in these a bit, and I certainly felt like they moved well when I got out of easy gear, though I don't think you choose them for anything too fast. At a push, I think they'll do a job if you've got a fast session to do, though you're going to be doing a bit more of the work than you would for other shoes doing intervals or in lighter, more responsive shoes like the Endorphin Speed 5. And I also do, however, think that the On Cloudsurfer Max could be a really good suitcase shoe, one to pack to cover a lot of runs if you're going on holiday or a work travel trip.
So I've run around 55 kilometres in the On Cloudsurfer Max, using it for a decent mix of training runs, a couple of just flat out easy runs, a fairly long progression run moving from easy to steady pace, and a hilly 10 miler run as well, where I was trying to keep a fairly consistent effort without pushing too hard, but it wasn't just a flat out easy run. And that's important for me to note, because I do think the shoe bucks my expectations of what it was and what the kind of runs that it actually feels really good on. So for those two easy runs, I haven't really enjoyed it that much. It's not a soft shoe, despite all the campaign around this shoe. It's not a very soft shoe. On shoes are never that soft, and the On Cloudsurfer Max is certainly firmer than a lot of the big cushion shoes on the market. It's not necessarily a problem as long as you go in with that expectation, but yeah, it's not a really cushy shoe underfoot. The foam underneath, it doesn't really sink in. It's not giving you a load of bounce or response either. But what you do have in the midsole is that Cloudtech phase geometry, the rocker geometry. And while I didn't really find it working that well for me on easy runs, it has worked better for me at slightly faster paces. So on that hilly 10 miler, I feel like I was really cruising along quite nicely in the shoe, and running a pace I was probably a bit quicker than I expected for the effort level. I felt like I was in sync with it and rolling nicely up and down the hills, and there was enough protection there for pounding down hills and that kind of thing. And the same was true on the easy to steady run, actually, I did in the shoe, where I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be all that good at speed, because it's a fairly hefty shoe here, and you're not getting, like I say, a big responsive feeling from that midsole foam, but did pick up the pace very nicely. Again, found I was running a little bit quicker than I expected in the second half of that run. I think it was about a 10 mile run as well, and was cruising along quite nicely around 335, 340 a K at the end, I think, and it felt very good. So the rocker really did come into play a bit better at those kind of speeds, and it's almost like it's a shoe that excels on those in-between runs. So if you're doing very structured training, we're doing a lot of very dedicated easy runs and then all-out speed sessions, I don't think the On Cloudsurfer Max feels that good on either of those kind of runs, and it wouldn't be my option for them. It's a bit too heavy for real speed work, I would say, and on very easy runs, I just didn't enjoy the feeling that much. Like, it wasn't that uncomfortable because it was firm, it just felt like a bit heavy and ploddy, and didn't work that well for me, the rocker, at those kind of speeds. But in between speeds, when you are kind of picking up a little bit, making a little bit of effort, you're not really going all out, but you are pushing a bit, it's not even like tempo pace really, the rocker worked quite well for me. So it might be a case that for other runners of different speeds, of different types of running and that kind of thing, the pace it works for is different for you, and it might work for all paces, and you might just find it really easy to rocker to get in sync with. But for me, it was that kind of in-between phase. Now, I did enjoy those runs in the shoe, but I wouldn't say it left enough of a lasting impression to make me think, oh, this is an amazing shoe. I think the big problem you have here is that it's a pretty expensive shoe, and it performed like a pretty good daily trainer on a few runs. So it ends up a shoe that I think doesn't really offer a lot of value, and doesn't offer a huge range of versatility, and doesn't offer, I think, crucially, the soft and comfortable ride that people might be expecting when they do go into it. Like, if you want a big max cushion shoe, you can get shoes with a lot more foam underfoot than the On Cloudsurfer Max that are also a fair bit lighter and a fair bit cheaper. Something like the Asics Nose Blast 5 ticks all of those boxes, performs, I think, just as well as the Cloudsurfer Max on those in-between speedy runs at that kind of steady pace, but then is a bit more comfortable and smooth at those more relaxed recovery run paces as well. So while there were definitely a couple of runs where I really did enjoy the Cloudsurfer Max during my testing, I think it's a shoe that doesn't really fulfill a role for me that I can envisage adding it to a rotation or recommending someone add it to their rotation, especially when you consider the high price.
Verdict then, I really enjoyed my miles in the Cloudsurfer Max. I love the way it looks. It generally offers good comfort, certainly for short to medium runs, but my main takeaway here is that I don't think it delivers on the promise of max cushioning. It's basically packing the same stack as like an Endorphin Speed 5 or a Rebel V5 from New Balance or a Boston 13. So if I was looking for more generous cush, I'd 100% choose the On Cloud Monster Hyper over this from On's lineup. However, if you ignore the max sales pitch, what you do get here is a shoe that's actually really quite good. for runs around marathon pace and a bit slower. But the big problem is that it's up against some very stiff competition in that space. There are a lot of very versatile shoes, often much cheaper or around the same price. The Endorphin Speed 5, the Rebel V5, the Adidas Boston 13, all probably better shoes. Then there are cheaper Max Stack shoes that pack more cushion protection and foam, often into kind of lighter shoes as well, all the same weight. You've got the New Balance 880 V15, that's a good example. So while I really like the way it runs, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone looking for max cushioning, and I think it's hard to recommend for those looking for max value as well.
So the On Cloudsurfer Max is not a bad running shoe. It's one that I did enjoy running in. I think it's got a bit more range than I expected, given its fairly hefty design. I think it does work quite well as a daily trainer when you're picking up the pace a little bit, but it's not a really soft and comfortable shoe for easy runs, despite what the marketing around the shoe suggests. And if you are looking for that, you'll find it elsewhere. And even if you're not looking for that and you just like the rocker on it, for me, it just didn't work that well for easy paces. And there are shoes that do what it did well for me during my run test, better and have more range and are cheaper. So even something like the Hoka Arahi 8 we've been testing recently, which has been a real surprise hit with all of us. We've all been really loving that shoe. Has similar properties to the On, with a nice smooth rocker, not the most exciting foam in the midsole, but a really smooth ride that works at a bigger range of paces. It's a cheaper shoe, it's a lighter shoe, and something like the Asics Nova Blast 5 is going to offer you a pretty nice rocker, a lot more foam underfoot, really nice, comfortable experience on easy runs, while still being lighter, again cheaper than the On Cloudsurfer Max, and more cushioned and soft than this, supposedly super soft shoe. So while I didn't actually mind the fact that the shoe didn't really run as I expected it to run in terms of being really soft, I'm not always a big fan of really squishy soft shoes anyway, I think it will lose out some of the potential audience who will be expecting a really soft ride. All round, I think it's a pretty good shoe. Enjoyed running in it. I think if you pick it up and you love the look of it and you go running in it, you probably will enjoy those runs a fair bit because it's got a nice rocker on there, but don't expect a really soft shoe, and you can certainly find better value elsewhere, I'd say, and more versatile shoes.
So there you have it. That's been our review of the new On Cloudsurfer Max. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, give us a like, a subscribe if you're not already. And if you're in the market for a good daily trainer, you'll want to watch this video that I'm going to pop on the channel right now. Get clicking. Otherwise, as ever, thank you very much for hanging around. Otherwise, as ever, thank you very much for popping by. And until next time, happy running, people.